Welcome to the special city council meeting for Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining in the process. We encourage that you participate, and your comments will be limited to 3 minutes on any item. Would you join me in the pledge? Council President Canopy.
Sure.
Council Member Edgman.
Present.
Council Member Wheeler.
Here.
Council Member Vice President Closey.
Here.
Council Member McKay.
Here.
Council Member Wilkie.
Yes, sir.
Council Member Banks.
Here.
Council Member Naylor.
Here.
Thank you. There are no minutes for approval, no correspondence, any council disclosure of ex parte. Council Member McKay.
Thank you. Just get my document pulled up here. I just have a couple. We received an email on Sunday, March 15th from the CARED group about their meeting, or Representative Dimming and Representative Ricky's meeting with the governor, and asking us if we had any further input. And I responded thanking for the information, and that my only request is that the governor and the BOI and DPHHS meaningfully engage with our community. And then on Monday, the 16th, we received an email from Chris Fogley about the town hall. And I just let him know that I was still planning to attend, but that I did have to be late due to a public works meeting, and I would have to leave early because I had to pick up my kiddo. Those were my only two that I had.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, let's move to the public hearing. This time I'm going to open the public hearing and have staff, is that you or Forrest?
I think Forrest, where's Forrest? Oh, it's Forrest.
Introduce,
Right under the bus. Thank you, Bill.
Sorry, I'm happy to start out.
can you introduce this, please?
Before I get into this, and I'll try to keep it brief, I owe the council an apology. I don't lose my temper very often. It's a real rarity. The issue that was plaguing me was I was being put in an ethical box. I was being asked to do two things that were ethically opposed. Couldn't do that. I'd raised the issue. Sorry, I didn't feel like I was getting the traction I needed. Needed a bigger platform. You provided it. By the time I got here, I was a little bit spicy, probably a little more than spicy, red hot. I apologize. Mayor, thank you for addressing the concern. I do appreciate it. I do understand. I apologize to you and your staff as well. Sorry about that, but I trust you understand why now that you fully understand why I was so hot. I am sorry. I hope you can forgive me. The ends, they say, justifies the means, but it certainly doesn't justify it. I am sorry. With that, 4 things I kind of want to touch on. They're all germane to the issue. I keep getting emails, texts, requests. Hey, what about this under zoning? What about that under zoning? Zoning, 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 zoning. Here's reality. Understand that the state of Montana is the sovereign. All power in this state that flows to its counties and cities flows through them. They make the rules, not us. Local zoning, applicability to the state of Montana for the reasons first outlined is extremely limited. They make the rules. They're not subject to our whims. They're not subject to our will. We are their subordinates. Understand that. Subordinate. Trust me, I've seen this happen. If you happen to find a chink in their armor, they'll take care of it. They'll fix it. They'll close it up and they'll take that away from you too. Ask the city of Helena. The city's jurisdiction ends at our city limits. The county exercises subdivision and zoning authority in the extraterritorial area, and they have adopted a growth policy for those areas outside of the city limits. Given those three facts, as provided by the Montana Code at 762310 sub 2, the 2025 version, our authority is quote unquote terminated. We don't have any business out there. We don't have any authority out there, and there ain't no way to find any out there. Accept that. Our authority to regulate the agencies of the state, that includes the county, school districts, and the various other entities that are public as defined in the law, is limited. Again, in the Montana Code at 762402. Our authority is to hold a public hearing when we are served notice by an agency that proposes to use land contrary to our regulations, and we are required to hold a public hearing within 30 days. The agency must attend, period. That's it. There ain't no more. What they're saying to us is, flap your arms, make all the noise you want at the public hearing. We're going to go do what we darn well please. Accept that. It's reality. It is also the first step to recovery. Accept it. I don't want any more phone calls. I don't want any more texts of bright ideas about using zoning to hinder, hamper, or otherwise manage the state. I'm over it. For obvious reasons. You had some real creative ideas. Some of them were really fun to play with, but at the end of the day, I've already reached out and touched that hot stove. I did it about 35 years ago as a young planter. The stove's hot, it burns, trust me. I know you can't learn from my experience, but trust me, it's hot. They'll burn you. We'll move on past that. The proposed moratorium. Mayor, I'll give the whole thought process to Brittany or Amber. Moratoriums are blunt instruments. They lack vision. They lack flexibility. They lack creativity. All of the things that as a planner I cherish, because if we can get a better idea, and there's plenty of them out there, I'd like to be able to implement them, but if we do a moratorium, it takes away some of those things. The rules for moratoriums are very rigid. They're very powerful. Will it solve the problems that we've run up the flagpole as what I would like to call as our soiled linen? Absolutely, it'll solve it. It has unintended consequences. We draw a noose around the city of Laurel. Development will occur out there under county regulation. They'll develop under county rules. It's not the pattern of development we'd like to see. They don't have to meet our performance standards. I'm not saying it's bad development. It's just not what we would prefer to see. It's not what we've envisioned through our growth policy and our land use documents. They will do that. They will ring us, and it will make it harder for us to grow through that ring. The other concern I have are the developments that are under preliminary plat approval. The one that comes to mind is Cherry Hill Fourth. Cherry Hill Fourth solves a ton of issues that we have struggled for decades in the city of Laurel to try and solve. The biggest one being the east-west connector. That developer is in the process of putting together the works for an SID so we can bridge the big ditch and connect to Golf Course Road. They have not been annexed. They told us they'd like to be annexed, but they have not been annexed. We put the moratorium down. We might have just taken them off right at the knees ourselves at the same time, because we're not going to get that connector while the moratorium's in place. I'm also kind of an absolutist. I'm sure that the rest of the world doesn't look at life the way I do, which is mostly black. The other part is mostly white. There's a band of gray out there, but it's not very wide. If I turn sideways, it vanishes. I would think, to my mind, that moratorium would apply to Cherry Hill Fourth. We would be breaching our commitments, or if we tried to create an angle whereby they get what they want, we get what we want, we might be skirting along the edge. Powerful tool. Can you use it? As the city attorney included in her message, I agree with her conclusions. Yes, you can. Absolutely. The issues that we've run up the flagpole, yeah, they're the real deal. Can we do it? Absolutely. Glad I don't win elections in Laurel. I'd hate to make that decision. That's the truth. Let's move on. There's another issue. In this initial 90-day window, the council is aware that we do not have an engineer. With Public Works and Mr. Markegard, we're moving forward. We've got the RFP out there. I have talked to 7 different engineering firms, all within the greater Billings area, or they've worked with the city of Laurel, that are all hyper interested in this. We're going to get a lot of proposals. We're going to have a lot of great choices. The thought I have is we'll hire 2 of them. We've got our list of things that need to be worked on. There are other items, I'm sure, that are priorities for the city council. One engineering firm of the sizes that I've talked to, could they do it? Probably. But if we can get 2 of them on board working for us, we can evaluate their performance. We'll find out where their strengths are and are not, and we can direct work to that firm, and we get a bigger bang for our buck. The long and the short of it is that, frankly, is the only thing that we're going to be able to solve in 90 days. We're going to get an engineer. We're going to get them hired. We're going to get a couple of task orders out there. And from there, we can start working on the solution. Again, can you do it? Yeah. Are we taking the steps to put us in a position to be winners down the road? Absolutely we are. But I submit to you there's a kinder, gentler approach that doesn't require the blunt instrument. It gives you more flexibility, more creativity. It gives you the ability to time certain decisions to where you can apply for grant funds. Yeah, it has all of the pains of a moratorium, but it doesn't create the noose. It doesn't hinder growth and development, those that have been approved, those that would come our way. It has more advantages. Essentially, you can think of it as a moratorium, but it's not, because you're not going to use that ordinance. You're going to exercise your political will at this table and your control of the city's budget to direct things. You set those capital priorities. You move it forward. Essentially, the council steps up. You agree that the things that are listed are problems, and I'm sure there are others, and we're going to solve them. We're going to grab the bull by the horns, and we're going to move forward responsibly, but we don't need the pains that come with the moratorium. Essentially, what I'm asking you to do is to commit to being responsible, being proactive, adopting a capital improvements plan when we have an engineer on board. That capital improvement plan replaces the findings and the steps that are required to adopt the full moratorium, which is the next step after the 90 days. That CIP becomes our path forward. And we can move flexibly within that document. Well, we said we were going to do this in 27. We're going to do it here in the fall of 26 because we can afford it and we're ready. And what we were thinking about the fall of 26, we're going to move back to 27. It just gives us the ability to be a lot more flexible, but it does require a ton of political will. It also requires the council, when you're making the business decision of annexation, to stop and think about it. We can't run joyfully through the park with our hands flapping in the air and say, oh, goody, 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 come on in. No, we've got to exercise discretion. We've got to be thoughtful. We've got to make sound decisions while we're curing the problems. If you're willing to do that, I submit it's a better approach. You're still going to get the pain, but we're going to get some growth. We're going to be able to spread the burden, and we're going to be able to go out and find people that will help us eat the elephant that's out there. The best way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Wrong. Invite your friends and neighbors over. Give them a couple of elephant burgers. Let them eat it for you. That's the approach I would like to see. Can you do it? Is it going to be fun? No. Can you do it? Absolutely. Should you? You won the election. Lucky you. There's a third option, and no, I don't recommend it. It's what I call the ostrich approach. We all understand the ostrich approach, right? You run out there, you stick your head in the sand, and it'll all go away, right? Wrong. I will tell you, the world has seen our problems. They're aware. I submit to you, that's not the only list of problems we've got. If you want to take the ostrich approach, I'll respect your decision. But I would respectfully also ask of you to resign your position with the city because we don't need you. We need leaders. People who are willing to get up, stand in front of that blowtorch, and take it. You want to be an ostrich? Still like you. I'll wave at you when we go by in the store. I see you on the street, but we don't need you. We need people who are tough of mind, tough of will, willing to stand up and do the right thing. If you want to use the moratorium, that's fine. I don't have to get my way all the time. Once in a while is all right. I think there's a kinder, gentler approach, and I believe those of you who are sitting here, from the mayor on down to the council, you can do it. I have faith, but don't commit to it and then turn into an ostrich. You'll find out I can be a really unpleasant human being. I promise. For the mayor, Kurt, Michelle, and the council, I hope you have hides like a rhinoceros. You're gonna need it. This is not gonna be fun. Mine is, but I've been playing this game for almost 40 years. It's all scar tissue. It doesn't hurt anymore. Chew away. Doesn't taste very good. Start saving your dimes and nickels. Be very, very fiscally responsible. If we can save $1, we need to save it. The good news is, by the time we get an engineer on board and we start getting those recommendations to act, we are going through design and we're ready to pull the trigger on construction. We're a couple of years down the road. You've got time to save some money. We've got time to look for alternative funding sources. Let's become aggressive in asking other people to help us eat the elephant. We can do that. I will tell you that what I'm asking you is not popular. I think the majority of those in attendance tonight would love to see you slap the moratorium down. I can respect that. It's a tool that's going to force you to behave. I don't think we need that tool as far as the council and the administration's concerned. We don't need that tool. I'd take your promise. You've always been as good as your word to me. I trust you going forward. If you think you'll waver, use the moratorium. It's okay. Don't mind. This is not going to be popular. It's not going to be fun. But in the end, if you commit to an action plan and you stick to it, whichever one you choose, it will be the most rewarding experience of your life. I guarantee it. It's all up from here. We can't get much lower. I would also ask respectfully, that's a lot of information to digest in a very short period of time. I'll give my written notes to the clerk. I'd ask you to think about it. I also know that decisions made in haste are rarely the best ones for us. They're made emotionally, they're not made rationally. And when you look back, I wished I'd have thought about insert your issue. You need to make a decision sooner rather than later. Think about it. If you're ready to act tonight, go for it. Fun starts faster than I thought. It's okay. But do think about it. Exercise good judgment. I know you can. Mr. Mayor, are there any questions?
I don't think so. We'll do those
All right.
later.
I'll hang around.
Yeah,
and
hang around.
We'll see. Thank you.
Okay, I believe the attorney would like to speak. Or no? Has he covered it? Okay, okay. All right. Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing that I did want to follow up on, and I do want to state I have complete respect for Forrest and his recommendations to council. I do have a little bit, and I looked into this issue at length in relationship to where we're sitting on pending annexation applications. I'm aware of, and I think Forrest mentioned, we have at least one subdivision that is in between the initial annexation application and final annexation approval. I'm not aware of any other ones. Kurt, are there any other ones pending? So there's just the one. From a legal standpoint, I do want to clarify that it is my opinion as the city attorney for Laurel that the passage, if city council chooses to, of the ordinance that's in front of you, I do not believe has an effect legally upon that particular annexation petition. The way that I drafted the emergency ordinance on the moratorium relates to new annexation applications. The Cherry Hill subdivision has already submitted an annexation application. So I think that the ordinance that is in front of city council is narrowly tailored enough to avoid any, well, I want to be careful in saying nothing avoids legal challenges, but to the extent that legal challenges can be avoided as it relates to that particular annexation and that subdivision, I don't believe that there would be a justifiable legal objection as it relates to that subdivision. And I would feel comfortable if any issues arise as it relates to that particular annexation process and being able to defend that. So I did want to clarify, and I do recognize and completely understand Forrest's concern in that regard. But I think that the way that the ordinance is crafted right now would not have any effect upon where we're sitting with regard to that subdivision from a legal standpoint. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any proponents for the ordinance? Come up, state your name, your address, and your 3 minutes starts when you talk.
Bring it on down. Hi, my name's Laura Kirschman, 939 West 4th Street. Thank you for bringing up Cherry Hills. My mother and father-in-law, Mike and Renee Kirschman, actually lived there. And one thing they always mention is water. That whole area has very bad water pressure and things like that. So when I talk here, I'm going to talk about how this ordinance is going to give you all time to take a further dive into our city infrastructure and what we need to be looking into and how this might give us that opportunity to look into things such as our water treatment plan and what we need to be doing. So I know my in-laws would greatly appreciate that because since they bought their home, that's been a big concern of theirs. They have the worst water pressure. My mother-in-law actually enjoys when we go out of town and stay in a hotel so she can take a good shower with water pressure. That's nice. If you use her kitchen sink, it's pretty pathetic. She doesn't get much water pressure there. But anyway, let me go ahead with my public comment. I come before you tonight to urge you all to vote in favor of the emergency ordinance presented before you. This ordinance will allow you all the necessary time, this ordinance will allow you all the necessary crucial time to take a deep dive into our city's current infrastructure state. These investigations are imperative so that before approving or denying any potential future annexation request, we can all be up to date and well informed on what our city can or cannot responsibly support. In order to ensure responsible growth occurs moving forward in Laurel, I believe it is vital we take a step back and do some extensive research on our town's current state, what needs our current state, what needs our town, what needs on our town's current state, what needs addressed, such as repairs, renovations, expansions, etc. Please vote yes on this ordinance. Again, I thank you all for what you do and serving your constituents. I know this isn't an easy job, but I really do plead that you take the time to vote for this and give you all the time that you need to see where we're at and what we can do to make sure that the growth of the city is done in a responsible way instead of in a rushed way where we are right now, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other proponents?
Shauna Hopper, 504 Roundhouse Drive. Monday evening, we hosted our first town hall meeting. We had a very informative, down-to-earth conversation with the residents and neighbors that we live amongst. It was about our town, our county, and our state. I would like to thank the 3 council members who attended to see how working together we can inform and communicate together. Tonight, I stand in front of you to discuss the constituents of Laurel. We are hungry for knowledge, information, and answers. This moratorium allows the city council to look at our city infrastructure and future growth for 90 days. Take the real look at what we need as a city now and for our future. Time to figure out the real issues in Laurel to educate yourselves and hopefully educate and inform us as well. Remember, these people in front of you tonight are the constituents that voted you in, that asked you to speak for us, represent us, and look out for us and our city. Please vote no, or please vote yes for the emergency moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris Fogley, 306 East 4th Street, Laurel. I want to just say I'm in favor of the moratorium. I think all of you know that already, but I would say that you're not going to be eating an elephant. You're going to be eating a continent. And it's going to take a lot of people to eat a continent if you want to go that direction. Laurel has been in a moratorium for planning for quite a few years, I would say decades. Subdivisions have grown up around Laurel in the county. And the city had an opportunity a few times to run city services to them. I think Pheasant Brook might have been one of the examples, which would be a great tax base today, but that didn't happen. And I know there was specific reasons why that didn't happen. But we can't make decisions on fear that the county's going to grow around us and take land that we could annex in a period of 90 or 180 days. Right, this is going to be 90 or 180 days. The emergency ordinance can't go longer than 180 days. And so I think that we need as a community to not be reactive to growth and start being proactive for growth and set our growth policy and work with the major constituents in our community. I know the school district, I don't think has been involved in the growth policy, and there are some language in there that does ask for constituents and major stakeholders to be involved in that. And I would like to see them involved as well as some of the other major constituents within our community. This isn't about the state. This is about our community and then getting things right. And I just wanted to say that, and I'm in favor of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Elizabeth Gilg, 1200 Cedar Crest Circle. I had a couple of thoughts that I guess I wanted to mention. I agree with some stuff that Forrest said. I am curious, like what department is like, whose responsibility would it have been to suggest what he suggested before we got to this point? If anyone knows, I just don't know. Like, to do all the things that are suggested we do while the moratorium is in place. Why wasn't this something that somebody proactively suggested? Is that one of the boards that's here in the city, or is anyone allowed to answer me? Is that not how this works?
I would, go ahead. Okay, we will hold that for after.
Okay, I'm just genuinely curious because one of the things that I would really like to see moving forward, because I'm probably going to live here forever, is departments that do act proactively and that consider these things before we are having to consider emergency measures. And so I'm just curious about that. I would like more information. And then I'm wondering, how sure can we be that this moratorium would not affect what Forrest is concerned about? Is there a way to like review that really quick before they vote to make sure that that wouldn't be a concern for that subdivision?
We'll comment on that during staff comment.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let's see.
Just raise your hand and remind us if we don't remember that.
Okay, awesome. The other thing I just wanted to say, the one thing I disagree with that Forrest said is I want to touch the hot stove. I think that rolling over to a higher authority, when that authority exists to serve us and make decisions that benefit our communities, goes against the fundamentals of democracy. And I think our community deserves better. And I will not be rolling over for the state. I will hold them accountable for every policy that they violate and every time that they step over the line, because that's our job, you know, and it's everyone here. That's our job, right? And I guess the other thing that I just wanted to mention on that is maybe the moratorium like shouldn't be a needed tool, but it appears that it is a needed tool until everyone has the time to educate themselves on like what can a city council member say when it comes to I don't even know the right words. I just feel like we all need more education. Like every single person in this room, every single person sitting at these city council desk tables. I need more education. I think that there's so much to learn and that maybe it is a tool that we should exercise that would give us all time to just better educate ourselves. So thank you.
Brian Lubinsky, 327th Avenue. While I think Forrest has great intentions with maybe a lighter hand on it, kind of no oversight and no set defined rules have led us to this point. So the memoriam would indeed give us a set defined set of rules and having everybody behave within them, rather than taking you at your word, which most of us we can, but the reason we're all in here is trust has been broken with our leadership, so we need accountability, and with that, a way forward, which this would allow us to have. Thank you.
Shelley White, 512 Wyoming Avenue. I'm also in favor of the moratorium. And I'll give you a little historical reason and then tie it in at the end. My father was an educator here in Laurel for years and years and years, but he had a side gig, which is real estate. And as part of that side gig, he had 2 housing developments, which were right outside of the city of Laurel. Excuse me. While doing that, he always looked into the possibility of bringing city water out into those housing developments. It was always explained to him that that would not be possible because of the infrastructure of Laurel. Either they would have to put in pumping stations or lift stations, so it wasn't possible. He graciously accepted that and continued on his merry way to develop those housing developments. How that ties in is those housing developments and the people that live out there, if they were brought into the city and given city water and sewer, would have brought forth tax revenue to the city instead of just generally to the state. I would like this moratorium time and this 90 to 180 days, however long it is, to not just consider those problems on if there's enough water or the problems it would be to expand the water out there, but also as far as the tax base goes. If that was to be used for future growth of Laurel in housing, how would that increase our taxable revenue versus a facility which would not pour any money into our city coffers? So that's another thing that you could take that time to consider. What is the best for Laurel? What's best for future growth? What's best for people who will come into our community, who will use our restaurants, our stores, and support our small businesses? What is going to be best for our schools and the growth of our schools and the ability to pass mill levies to increase the productivity of our schools, to increase the education of our children? So that's something else I'd like you to consider if you do accept this during that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Steve Crum, 249 24th Avenue West, Laurel. I'm for this moratorium, and I really thought about it a lot when Forrest came up here and started talking about it. And the bottom line is planning doesn't have to stop. The only thing that will stop is that you're not going to be forced into making decisions maybe you're not ready to make. You know, you need to step back, take a look at what you have. When you already got city residents that have trickles of water, that means you got a problem. I mean, Laurel has limited itself over the years to such a small tax base that it's hard to really do much. And when I was a kid, we had buses run everywhere. And I know this is other money, school districts, stuff like that, but everybody had more money. Now everybody has less money because, you know, the big boys want to take it all. So the thing is, we're kind of in a hole, and it's time to just stop, take a look at what you got, and start with a short-term plan to do something to start heading in the right direction. So when you do make a decision to annex a Cherry Hills or something like that, you know you got the water, you know you got the sewer, you know that you got the money needed to provide future needs for these expansions as you move forward. And if you just keep going like you are, I mean, we're just digging a hole. Until you stop digging, which this thing will help you do, it will help you stop digging, then nothing's going to change. So force yourself to take a step to move forward and do a study that will at least get you started in the right direction, short term, and then something that you can look at long term. So again, I'm for this. I think you should put it in this time. 90 days is not that long in the time frame it takes to do all the paperwork, to do a subdivision and all that stuff. And the planning department can still keep planning. You can be ready to go when the moratoriums are over. But it's not like that's going to end, but it will give you time to stop digging. Thank you.
Any other proponents?
Juanita Berry, 1113 West 4th Street. As we just consider, excuse me, as we consider something, there's good in each of us, there's bad in each of us. So I respect each one of you here and the job that you are doing. All of us do the best that we can with the information that we have. And it certainly seems like this moratorium would give us the information to be able to be gathered in the time needed. And so it seems like it's a really good opportunity to really think about all the things that have been said about what Laurel does need for growth. I was thinking about it, it's like 114 acres. How much of that could be turned into housing? I, as 3 properties away from that, I'm not excited about 100 houses going in there, but buddy boy, I would be excited for that, for Laurel, for the income it could produce. And so it seems like this moratorium is a good opportunity just to consider the growth needs of Laurel. So thank you very much for all of your service during this challenging time, but with every challenge, there are opportunities for good. And so I believe that a lot of good is going to come out of this challenging time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next.
Hi, Cheryl Hill, 815 Fifth Avenue. Mayor, everyone, council, thank you for all of you guys and what you're doing. I too, like Forrest, it's a challenge to be in your spot right now because we as a city are digging out of a hole. I am for this. Not that listening to Forrest, I was kind of sitting there thinking, oh, okay, well not the ostrich thing. We don't need to put our heads in the sand, not that part. But, you know, he makes really good, points on that second, but I think we're already in a hole. And I have seen the 21 years that I've lived here in Laurel be very reactive. It's like we kind of, as a town, I've seen like, oh my goodness, we have a problem. Let's put the fire out instead of being proactive and planning and looking at where can we grow? What can we do? What do we need? And this goes beyond. I don't even want to talk about what might possibly be down there because that's maybe gotten us here, but that's not the bigger picture. The bigger picture is we're a community and we don't want to be taken over by Billings. We want to make sure that we are being proactive about where we're going to grow, how much water needs to be used. Do we need a water tank here? Does a school need to be built down there? You know, all those kind of decisions. And I know 90 days is 90 days and you're not going to solve the community's problems in 90 days. So I know that there's kind of that toss up, but at the same time, I do think it'll allow you to breathe because I feel like for 21 years that I've been in here, this city has been on fire on a lot of aspects. It's just been very reactive. And I think it would give you guys time to kind of breathe, take a step and, you know, do the learning and counsel and kind of figure out what we need to do as a community. Because we're here, we're here and we don't want to go anywhere, but we want the best Laurel that we can all enjoy and grow our kids and grandkids in. So anyhow, thank you.
Dennis, did you have something?
Yeah. I'm Dennis Alwyn from 185 Golf Course Road, and I've dealt with banks and I've dealt with some county people, and I really don't think 90 days is very much. You can't hardly get anything done in 90 days. A moratorium for 90 days would just give all you guys a chance to hear if there's anything that comes up that's new. I know I wanted to build a house for my grandson out at my farm, and I had to do a water test, a groundwater test, which took me a year. The Carbon County said, hey, we gotta take care of this for a year. And so I did, but if you look at that, 90 days is nothing. That's a little reprieve to give you guys a little bit more time. So I'm for the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Last time, any other proponents?
Hello, I'm Matthew Weist, 320 First Avenue. I'll just keep this short. I wanted to make it on record. I am for the moratorium. I do think that is a proper solution. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Any other proponents? Okay, are there any opponents? Are there any opponents against the ordinance? Last time, are there any opponents against the ordinance? See none, I will move to ask staff to answer any questions that the public brought up. Do we?
You want me to address the Cherry Hill subdivision portion? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will specifically address the question that Ms. Gilg posted or posited, excuse me, on the pending Cherry Hill subdivision. I want to note two things, but then offer some options to council so that you can, as you're considering the issues, you can decide as it relates to this particular matter, how you'd like to have that weigh into your analysis. First, and certainly Kurt has a much stronger knowledge base about this subdivision than I do. In my legal work, often the work that I do, because it's legal in nature, doesn't, it has kind of a peripheral fact base. So the information that I often know about projects might be limited. So I certainly, Kurt can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but where I understand things sit as it relates to that subdivision, I wouldn't remotely anticipate that we'd be in a spot of presenting final annexation approval for that subdivision to city council within the next 90 days. In fact, I think we're much further out from that. But again, Kurt, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong on that. But from a factual standpoint, that's where I understand things are sitting. From a legal standpoint, I did look into this issue, as I mentioned. I feel comfortable with my recommendation to council that I don't believe that the emergency ordinance, if adopted by council, will have a distilling effect upon that particular subdivision. The manner in which, if you look closely at the manner in which that the ordinance is worded from a legal standpoint, it is related to future annexation requests made for the city. So that would be any annexation request made in front of the city in the next 90 days, assuming that this remains in effect for that entire time. And if extended in any manner, which has the possibility as well, and I would anticipate that in the course of the next 90 days, as Forrest mentioned, and as I would certainly advise that, serious work is put into a plan of what things are going to look like beyond that 90-day window. This is an emergency ordinance, so it's not intended to solve long-term problems here. It's intended to put a halt to future annexation proposals in the next 3-month window to allow the time for the city to evaluate what the plan is moving forward. So I do not believe that the manner in which this ordinance is drafted would affect that particular subdivision. So I am stating that on the record. If, however, as I've always advised City Council, you prefer to have a legal opinion on those issues, I would be happy to provide that as well. Obviously, this is in front of you for voting tonight. If you choose not to vote on it tonight, choose that you would like me to provide a formal legal opinion, I'm happy to do that as well. I wasn't aware prior to just very recently that this particular issue was being raised, and so I just didn't know to provide a legal opinion on it. Otherwise, I would have included that in your packet for tonight, consistent with the legal opinion that I provided, indicating that this is a legally defensible approach. So I think those are my comments as it relates to that particular issue. And as I said, that is the only land development issue that is in play at the present time that even I think could conceivably have any effect upon or be affected by, this ordinance. And as I'm stating, I do not believe it would have a legal effect. Now, here again, I want to always, as I always caution council, the fact that legally these issues are defensible doesn't mean that someone might not raise something. I certainly have not heard a formal objection by this subdivision developer as to this ordinance. But I believe that the manner in which I've drafted it would allow that subdivision development to continue to proceed in the manner that it is right now. And then I think that might have been the only question for me to answer. I think the other issue was related to kind of how, like what departments are responsible for, I don't know, growth development or, so I don't know if you want to address that, Kurt.
Sure, I
Thank
can. So the departments that currently are housed inside city limits are the building department, the public works department, and planning. We have been using contracted planner for about since 2017, I believe. We had over the numerous years since zoning first came up, it was by a contracted planner all the way up until 2007, I believe. And that's when the city went out and actually hired their first city planner. It was 2007, I believe, right in there. And then about every 2 years, we would get a new planner. And I think we've had 6 or 7 in the last, since 2007. So 18, 19 years, we've had 6 or 7. They come for 2 years. Typically what they do in planning is they process subdivision applications, zone changes. We had a big growth in 2005 with Iron Horse subdivision, Elena subdivision, Solid Foundations. And since then, we have had little or no subdivisions coming in except for Cherry Hill. And then that is when we started seeing a growth spurt again, was just a few years ago. I would have to remind 2005, 6, we had Elena and Iron Horse going. And then 2008, we had a bubble or a burst of the bubble in the housing market, and everything's kind of slowed down on construction. So the planning department has been high turnover. And as far as growth for the city, we've had PERs, or preliminary engineering reports, that guide the city council and the citizens about our engineering issues that we have going on at our water plant, our sewer plant. Since about 1999, the city took aggressive steps to replace the main line coming from the water plant up along the highway and through the south side and over to Fifth Avenue. And then we've been replacing water and sewer lines. As part of the capital improvement plan is to go out and replace water and sewer lines. And we've been doing streets. The last project was the South 4th Street project. We've had the east side projects around the stadium, 2 brand new streets up there. But it's been always identifying that the shortcomings of the water and sewer department as they do for needs. We've rebuilt the water plant with a new set basin. We've had open basins since the 20s. Those were recently replaced and approved for construction, so that went indoors. That took away I think a 1920 open basins, and it went inside of a building. It goes through plate settlers. We get the mud out a lot more efficient. And we did that. I think that was a $6-7 million project. Our sewer plant has undergone close to $8 or $9 million improvements over the years in the last 15 years. We just recently upgraded the PLCs and the SCADA software that runs the plants for both water and sewer plants. In our latest PER and the engineering report, it was for a water reservoir. We call it the tank. Some call it a tower. And that cost was looking at about $18 million. When you do the tank, it was a 1 million gallon tank, and it was to be placed up in the northern regions of the city to provide better water pressure to the northern parts of the city, and also to take the booster station offline. We have 2 booster stations, one in Murray Park. It's a little brick building up there with a metal roof, and then there's one out right at the end of Maryland on going to Cherry Hills between second filing, and it's called Cherry Hill. We call it the Cherry Hill Booster Station, and that feeds everything. I guess Ann's Place or what's the street up there? Anyway, that feeds all the way out to Elena subdivision, and that is on a booster station. So that is one of the things that the community's been looking at. We've been looking at the PERs, engineering report, and then identifying how we're going to be able to put that booster station in place, or sorry, the reservoir in place. We had a study in 2019 that indicated that our current reservoir, which was built in 1968, has some paint peeling off on the inside. The divers went in 2019 and identified that that needed to be recoated on the inside of it. In order to recoat on the inside, you have to take that reservoir down. The other reservoir that was from the 20s, I think, is a big open basin, and they spent about $500,000 covering it. And in 1998, they took the reservoir down, hired a painter to go in and start painting the inside. They put the water in the other tank, and I believe I don't know when, it was before my time, but the water reservoir blew out of the hillside. And so it was taken offline. So we don't have a second reservoir. We only have one reservoir. It's 1968. It was coated. After we got the price tag of $18 million to do that, we had another company come in last year. And I think they reported to the Public Works Committee about their findings on that. And again, they recommended that it be taken down and coated in the near future. So there is a bunch of planning that's going on. I think that I'm not sure if I got your question exactly right, but.
Let me get, Forrest, are you still here? Could you come in and field how when the moratorium was brought up that, I'm going to paraphrase, that it wasn't brought forward that Cherry Hill was, is that kind of, oh. Oh, Forrest will come up there with you.
If it's something I can field, I'll address it. If not,
Perfect. So my question is specifically, because I'm very excited about the studies and the things that we get to look into, whether or not we do have a moratorium. Like, I think that these things should be looked into. I'm curious though, because I love Forrest's ideas about, counting every dollar and just really, I don't know if the right word would be like just auditing every single piece and department in the city to make sure everything's functioning properly and monitoring, or not even monitoring, reviewing all of the infrastructure and the public works stuff, like the roads and stuff, right? So that's what we get to do, or we would want to do prior to continuing to annex in properties, right? Is make sure that we can support those and that when that happens, that those continue to benefit the city and add to our property taxes. And it's money that we can, bring in to help all of the different departments in Public Works, which I did get to speak to Matt Wheeler and learn about those different departments, and really interested to dive in there after this stuff. But I'm wondering why, or what, would it be the planning department or planning board that would have like a meeting where these ideas would, you would hope, be introduced by whoever's in charge to say, hey, like, let's be proactive. This would be good for Laurel. Like, whose job is it to do that so that we could have been doing this before now? Is that a specific board? Or is it multiple different ones?
I think I understand. It's a great question, Elizabeth. Under moratorium, the articles and the findings are going to spell out who is responsible for what, where those duties are assigned. Could be the planning board, could be the parks board. It just depends. It could be an independent entity created by the council to provide oversight. You could volunteer to serve on that and be appointed by the governing body. I don't know. Under moratorium, there are a lot of options. I think some of those options carry forward under the, and forgive the term, I can't come up with a better one, kinder, gentler approach that I had proposed. We could follow the same process. Traditionally, a capital improvements plan is prepared through a public process by your engineer under the supervision of the Public Works Department with support from planning. The council could then say, after these departments and the engineer has done their thing, we want it vetted public through our planning board. That's what they're there for, to do the heavy lifting and advise us. There's choices out there. Either approach, it matters not. There's a process. The public will be engaged and involved. That's the way we have to do business under Montana law. Did that answer your question, or did I miss the target completely?
Just, I guess.
He's asking history, who has made these?
I just wish that like, maybe it's something that we need to create. Maybe it's something that hasn't been created yet. Like, I'm just wondering why we aren't talking about these things more regularly before we're like, hey, we need a moratorium on annexation because we're not bringing enough money in the Public Works Department. Like, we keep raising water and sewer prices and it's still not enough to put enough money away to do the things that we want to do for our city, or your city. I guess I'm in county, but I still very much care. And I'm just wondering if is that somebody's job description? And if not, like, can we make it somebody's job description to be proactively thinking about these things? And I just have not had time to dive into
Again,
that.
a capital improvements plan, the prime driver is Public Works.
So that would
That's
have
where
been,
it's going to, that's where it's going to start. That's where it will vet. It could go to the planning board. Yes, planning has a role, but it's the big ticket on a capital improvements plan is Public Works. Public Works Committee, possibly the planning board, full council, public participation. In terms of a moratorium, to the best of my knowledge, the city of Laurel's never played with that animal before. The sky's the limit as we navigate that process. If I misspeak, Michelle, interrupt. The last CIP, Kurt, was done when? I don't remember.
I believe you helped navigate that 4 years ago, 4.5.
And who was the driving engineer?
3 years ago? KLJ.
No, the individual. Was it Carl Jackson? Was it Matt Smith? Didn't have a lot to do with it, at all, to tell you the gods. on-
Yeah, we did that and then we modified the capital improvement plan to purchase the fire truck last June. So that's been an ongoing thing. We've had, I think it was 3 years ago we did that. Don't quote me off of it. It was 3 or 4. I think it
Just
might have been-
a general range, and who was the prime driver from KLJ? If it was Matt Smith, I didn't have a lot to do with it.
It was Matt.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt.
Not necessarily a good or bad thing. He's a bright guy. It's okay. The answer to the question is moratoriums, new game will make the rules if that's the direction we want to go. If we pursue a more traditional approach, it'll be primarily driven by the engineer, public works and planning, and anyone else that the city council would like to assign to it. That's the answer to the question. It's probably, the answer is I don't know.
What would you call, because I'm not familiar with all the terminology, what would you call your plan, or like what would come next for the city? Like as far as doing these studies, is there like a term for conducting all these these studies?
Absolutely.
Is there a word for that?
There are a lot of words for it. Engineers are real entertaining people. They're slow, they're deliberate, they're thoughtful, they're meticulous, but they're that for a reason. And they love acronyms almost as much as the United States Army loves acronyms. They have PERs and this and that. Simply, essentially, the capital improvements plan is a roadmap. Here's our list, here's our priority, here's a schedule. We reach in, we grab that depending on what it is. The water tank situation, I believe the PER has already been done. The next step in that would be to update it, make sure we haven't missed anything, and advance to preliminary design. Through that process, we'd start pursuing financing. Design has multiple steps, 20%, 50%, 90% final. At that point, if it's good, we go to bid, select contractor, we issue a notice to proceed, construction, inspection, acceptance, warranty. Lots of little steps. Again, all driven engineering. The planning component is build the CIP, which is projects, priority, preliminary schedule. You're going to get it either way. It matters not. What I heard tonight from the public is you'd like to see a much more rigid schedule. I'm okay with that. If that's really what you want, and that's what the council decides to do, no harm, no foul. You needed an option to consider. The ostrich option is not it. Not shaking my finger at you, Jody. The ostrich option isn't it. You needed something to weigh it against. What the public's telling you, as I heard it from out there, is give us a much more rigid approach to this. I'm fine with that. I can live with it. If that's what you want to do, council, that's why you won elections, do it. If you need at some point when we get an engineer on board, as we start navigating these processes, take some time to visit with them.
Yeah, I would love that. And
Okay.
I think that was my question. I just still would like at some point maybe clarification on if this is something that is done regularly, like every couple of years, and not just like piecemeal from each department. I think that the city as a whole should be evaluating all of these things at the same time, and then also getting that information out to the community, because they don't like that their water and sewer bills are so high, but also they're high and we're not saving very much money to be able to do the improvements that they want, And I think that's every department. If that's just.
Again, moratorium, new animal. The capital improvements plan, it's a set playbook that we walk through. Process probably will end up looking very similar. One is just following a very rigid set of commitments. If that's what you want, that's what the council's willing to give you, so be it, that's fine. The finance component of it, absolutely. Finance is part of a capital improvement plans. We get engineers' opinions of probable costs for all of these things. It helps the council set the final priority. We can't afford this in 2026. We can afford this. We move it up the list, we pay for it, we take it off the list. As we complete projects and a year rolls by, everything that we've done, we have the celebration. We did this, and this, we win. We need to start thinking about that next 5 to 7 year cycle. What else is out there? It should never end, ever. Okay? With that, I'm gonna shut up.
One quick, go ahead, Kurt.
The task order with KLJ was resolution 2343. That gave the KLJ the task to go forward with a capital improvement. It was May 25th of 2021. We adopted it. So the staff spent with KLJ a couple of years. We adopted it in June 27th of 2023, and it was amended in with resolution 2446, I believe in June of 2024. So it's been an ongoing thing. Capital improvement plan is usually a 5-year window lookout. So we're coming up, to 2028, I think it believed out. We went out to 2027, 2028 as far as some of that infrastructure. Ongoing was, as with that was the PER for the water reservoir because of the 2019 report from the dive team that was inside the tank. And that's, the PER has been going on all the time. We need to have the PER in order for us to go out for grants. So almost on every one of our projects, we actually got a grant from the state. They at the previous time, it was called a TCEP grant, and they have a new name for it. But we would apply for that. We'd have to have the PER completed and then submit the PER with all the grant application in order to get grants. So that's been an ongoing thing. It helped fund some of our projects at the water plant and the sewer plant over the time. Improved our lift stations. It replaced 2 lift stations at Elm, and it replaced one at Elm, and it rehabbed the one at Village Subdivision. So we've been spending a lot of time updating and repairing our infrastructure over there, water lines throughout the community, especially in front of the high school. We ran a water line all the way across over to Pennsylvania to tie that all in so that the stadium would have, better water over there. And then we did, we're trying to expand upon the main lines coming out and to the community. I got the chance, I don't know if you saw it today, Northwest Energy had an abandoned pipeline that was onto a corner at the intersection of 4th Street and First Avenue. And so one of those things is trying to identify what's on our old maps and going forward with our new infrastructure. But that was an unfortunate incident today, and I'm glad our public works crews showed up and got it taken care of. So we just got it done. But anyway, we've been ongoing with PERs, capital improvement plan, trying to tie the CIP into that. And then with the water and sewer rate structures, we went through almost a year, I believe, to come up with a rate structure in order to fund that stuff. So we had an outside firm that the city council hired to help us with those rates and to look at that. It was an outside firm that came in and helped look at our rate structure, where we were going, where we were deficient, and how we're going to fund that. So,
Council President Canopy.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the time. I did get a chance to visit with Michelle, Attorney Brockman, and my questions she answered, because in the annexation applications, I had questions of what applications meant, and I was under the understanding before this, a week ago, thinking, okay, what does that do for Cherry Hill subdivision? That was answered. The next one was incoming applications were golden. I appreciate what you've done there. My next one is there a cost to evaluate these conditions? And if so, who is responsible to pay these fees? I've heard nothing of a 90-day, what it's cost, 180 days, and to get to the point of growth. I mean, there's things that have to go through, but where is the responsibility and who is the responsibility? Is it the city paying for this, or is it going to be passed on to the city people? I guess that's one of my questions.
Can you clarify your question just a little bit?
Yeah,
Councilmember
I would
Kennedy?
like to know, going into this situation out here, going into looking into the growth policies and whatnot and investigating and what the ground can do, what capacities of water, all this done by either Forest or whoever we hire as a contractor. What are those costs to do this analysis and study that we're trying to do 90, 180 days, or even I've heard a year?
I can't give you hypotheticals and I don't have a clue of what the entire PER cost. I do know that they go years in order to get the PERs up to date. Sometimes we can do a quick update by if you have a specific task that you want to do. So say you want to do, a booster station replacement. You can get that a lot faster because you're dealing with one specific issue. All the cost in the water and sewer is absorbed by the customers or the citizens that are paying their water bill. So they're a shareholder in the system. They own the system. The citizens own the system. Those costs are put into the rate structure to do that. I'm not sure our rate structures were set up through the last review to go into extensively because we already had the PER for the reservoir going forward. So that was already built into it that we were trying to go out and do that. Well, we've got to the point where it was $18 million and we applied for a grant and we were denied. So it kind of stalled on that because part of the rate structure was we were going to get a grant and we didn't receive the grant. So we were looking at grant opportunities in order to be able to offset the cost to the citizens for that, but any cost would be absorbed by the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I understand, although I have some framework of your question, Council President Canopy, because of our discussion earlier today. So I'm going to try to see if I can kind of break out two distinct issues here. There's two distinct issues I think that you're questioning about and that I also think that is of interest to the public. There is on one hand, the issue of studies that are related to particular properties. So a developer comes in and says, I want to annex into the city. There are studies that the developer has to present in the annexation process related to the impact of that particular site selection in looking at potential annexation. Those costs are borne by the applicant. On the other hand, there are the costs that are borne by the city to talk about long-term growth, capital improvement, direction with regard to what the city would like as far as annexation, growth, development, infrastructure demands, et cetera. Those are costs borne by the city. Now, I would respectfully suggest that in any annexation request, there should not ever be by a municipality and city council specifically in deciding these issues, just an automatic assumption that what an applicant is presenting to the city with regard to the studies that they are presenting, here's the impact upon infrastructure, are necessarily valid. So these costs that we talk about that are larger costs borne by a municipality, I think often are borne even if we're dealing with individual site selection. So I don't think we can ignore the fact that the city has a responsibility to invest into determining long-term growth, regardless of what happens with annexation for particular site parcels, because there shouldn't be an assumption that we just carte blanche accept what an applicant is presenting. And I know that these are a little bit unique issues for city council because, we have, as is being noted in the room, we haven't had a lot of growth. We haven't had a lot of annexations in front of city council. In the course of my tenure, we're talking about a couple. But if we're really talking about long-term potential growth, I would respectfully suggest that ignoring this component of it and suggesting that it's only borne by applicants is not only a naive approach, it lacks foresight. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Council, any other questions? Okay, I will close out. Oh, did you?
Yes, Mayor. I'm learning things quicker, but I still need help with really what a moratorium is. My brain's telling me it's kind of like a timeout. Does that sound appropriate or not?
I love that analogy, and I think probably anyone in the room who has children probably would love that analogy. It's one I've utilized with kids all the way up to 23 many times. That's a perfect way, I think, to characterize it. It's basically saying pause. This particular moratorium, now I will suggest to you, and Forrest is absolutely accurate, this is a unique approach for Laurel. If the city council chooses to pass it, it is a unique approach. I will tell you it's not unique amongst municipalities. I mean, I could run down the list of many cities and towns throughout Montana that have utilized this for a variety of different purposes, not just land use purposes. It's essentially a halt to give time to figure out what the plan as far as addressing, and in this particular situation, what we're talking about specifically is annexations. What needs to be done to come up with a plan that will address how we handle annexation applications moving forward. I would suggest, yes, it's a very short time period. Now there's other things that will be and can be done during that time period, but it will pass quickly and it will require a significant amount of work by city staff and many departments to start kind of figuring out what can get into place. But it will prevent, I'm going to suggest it will prevent resources being stretched even further thin. Because what happens in a city the size of Laurel, where resources are very stretched thin, is that anytime new growth is coming in, it takes away from the focus on the things that I hear concerns being raised about. You know, what does planning look like? How do we start to address things with a little bit more vision for the future? But anytime we have, whatever it is, and in this case, annexations coming in, it is going to pull those resources over the next few months away from, I believe, starting that process that needs to start very quickly.
Excuse me.
We're in the council discussion. We will have time for public questions before the vote. All right? Thank you.
Excuse
Sorry,
me.
Mr. Mayor.
Choker mounts a bit. Can we take 2 timeouts?
So yes, in the course of this, there is the option to look at, well, there's a couple options. Extension. There's also the option at looking at a permanent moratorium. I will tell you the city of Missoula has a permanent moratorium. I say permanent, I shouldn't say permanent, long-term moratorium in place. I think Missoula enacted their moratorium on annexation related to East Missoula. It was probably 4 years ago. And I believe it's a 10-year plan. Don't quote me on that because I don't have all the, I was gonna say every other city's ordinance is memorized, but and I can think of other ones. They are often, emergency ordinances like this that are put into place are not meant to solve long-term problems. They're meant to, I think, to use your verbiage, give a timeout, say, let's come up with a plan. And if it's something longer term, let's evaluate that. So the idea would be coming back in front of council. I mean, my suggestion would be at most the next 60 days to present, here's the city's staff's recommendation on whether we should be looking at something longer term as far as a moratorium or a different plan. It certainly would not prohibit in any respect, I don't believe, but Forrest can, I don't know if he's still here, he can disagree with me if he would like to.
Agreed, I'd show up.
Okay. Passage of this is not going to prevent looking at exactly the plan Forrest is suggesting is a wise long-term plan.
Thank you very much. I guess my concern is we got to get it right. So thank you so much.
Council Vice President Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is for Forrest. How close is Cherry Hills to being the final decision to annex them into the city of Laurel?
Your crystal ball's as clear as mine. I don't know. I do know I've gotten several calls from their engineering firm. They're working on some of the bigger ticket items that I would classify requiring a finer approach, such as the bounds and the assessment methodology for the SID to pay for the bridge going across the big ditch. That's something that would occur very late in the process. I know they're building infrastructure. We've had an incredibly open winter. I haven't driven through. Kurt offered to take a run through there yesterday, but I had to go to planning board. We had entertainment there last night. Didn't have time to go look at Cherry Hills. I'll get down, I'll get a look at it this weekend. It could happen as soon as, probably 60 days. It may be 120 plus. Construction is an unpredictable beast. There are some material shortages. When I talked to Coulter last, he sounded confident that they'd be ready to get them on the market at some point this year. The questions they're asking lead me to believe sooner rather than later, probably in time to target at least a significant portion of what's prime real estate sales in Laurel, which runs typically from May through early October. So somewhere in that range, it could overlap with this 90-day situation, but I do believe the city attorney addressed my concern, which is that we're taking them off at the knees and ourselves as well. If that's not the case, delete that from the list. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I did have one thing I wanted to add. I had it in my notes. I was worried that, this might not be Laurel anymore. It could be Sparta, and I'd get tossed into the pit of despair for offering an alternative, or that we might shoot the messenger. Neither has happened. I'm glad it's still Laurel.
I believe Kurt wants to add on to that.
No.
Yeah, we're in council discussion.
No.
You can bring it up right before the vote in a couple minutes.
So the last time Cherry Hill's third filing, they weren't done with all of it, but they wanted to start selling the partials, the lots within the subdivision. And part of the annexation process is they either have to have all the infrastructure done, which means it's been signed off by Public Works, that the streets are accessible to all the lots, which means they have to be built to public standards and approved, or they do go into final annexation and final plat by providing 125% of the estimated cost. And in the last time, in order for them to get the final plat approved, the city council did approve it before all the infrastructure was complete. The streets were done, but not everything else was completed. Backfill of the curb and gutter, the soil and everything else. And they did provide a bond for what their last, and it's a bond of 125% of the estimated cost, what they have left. And they did provide that bond. And then with that bond, we were able to final annex them. Forrest is right. We don't have a crystal ball when they're going to do that. It's depending upon it. Last night, he couldn't join me on the tour. I went up and looked, and they have equipment there, and they were moving dirt. So they're trying to get the streets going, and I'm not sure where they're at on the water and sewer approvals, but it looks like they're moving forward to build that subdivision.
Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. I just, I have some thoughts and questions, but was holding those for when we got into our scheduled matters. Want to make sure that we're still going that direction. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wheeler.
I just had a question for our attorney. What are the legal consequences of doing this moratorium with the state?
Great question, Councilmember Wheeler. If this ordinance was targeted at any particular property, there are risks of legal consequences. If you read through the ordinance, it's very clear that what City Council is voting on tonight is not related to any particular project, any particular site parcel, any particular proposal that may or may not be anticipated. This is related specifically to identified issues in relationship to infrastructure, growth, water and sewer demands, demands upon our first responders, development, tax-based issues. These are broad-based issues that need analysis. And yes, I think everyone in the room is identifying that these things have come to a head. But I don't believe that these things are coming to a head because of any particular project. I think these things are coming to a head, and they have been for a long period of time. So again, I always caution in saying there's no possible way to remove legal risk
Right.
in any situation. And, there's no perfect world to do that. I would be ill-advising the city if I said that our hands are tied to make decisions because of potential legal ramifications.
And with different situations, school, Northwest, what legal precedents have been set? I know there's something at the Montana Supreme Court right now, but as far as the process, how solid is that? The donut zone, all that stuff,
Great question. So as you know, Councilmember Wheeler, there are some uncertain issues as it relates to zoning. Well, what we often refer to as extraterritorial zoning. There are some uncertain issues on what zoning authority the city may or may not have moving forward as it relates to county properties, specifically those within, as you refer to and is commonly referred to from a colloquial standpoint, kind of the donut area. That issue is settled legally. It was settled at the district court level, but it is on appeal. And I will tell you, I'm working on that appeal. And in fact, the appellant's brief in that case just came across my desk today, and I'll have a response due in a few weeks. So there is the possibility. We can never predict what the Montana Supreme Court is going to do on these issues. There is the possibility that the issue of zoning outside of city limits might look very different once the Montana Supreme Court issues a decision on that pending case. That again is another reason that from my standpoint, as we talk about legal issues, not rushing to make decisions as it relates to county properties right now, when we're in this time period that could result in a very different outcome than where we're sitting. I think time to allow that decision to play out is important. Because if the Montana Supreme Court disagrees with the district court's judgment in that particular litigation, it could dramatically change what zoning looks like in the extraterritorial area. I will say, as the law sits right now, Forrest and I are in complete agreement. And here again, I absolutely respect everything that's been proposed by the public, just like Forrest. I'm getting a lot of things across my desk with ideas about, how to propose addressing growth issues. I've tried to respond to the constituents that have reached out on this issue, but I want to make it abundantly clear that it is absolutely the city's position that we have no authority to zone county properties, whether they fall within the extraterritorial jurisdiction or not. The district court's opinion on that is absolutely clear. And unless and until that is overturned, I could not plausibly make any recommendation to city council to look at zoning on county properties. It would be absolutely illegal. And I just would not make that recommendation. So here again, as I don't know the terminology Forrest used, but they're clever ideas. They're creative. And frankly, I love that. I love reading people's opinions on kind of what options are available. And for me to be able to evaluate that, I hope I've provided feedback on that. Zoning for county properties right now by the city is not a possibility. as it relates to growth in relationship to annexation, moratoriums, whether they're emergency in nature, like this particular one in front of you, or there's something that is more long-term in nature, are absolutely legally defensible. And as I said, often used for a variety of reasons. So yeah, we might be sitting here, the docketing for the Montana Supreme Court right now is about a year and a half out. We might be sitting here having a very, very different discussion after that case is decided at the Supreme Court level about zoning for extraterritorial county properties, but that's not where we are right now. And so time to kind of see how that plays out as well, I think is incredibly important. Did that answer your question?
Any other council discussion? With none, I will close this public hearing. And we will move on to, you don't have any consent items, no ceremonial calendar, no reports of boards and commissions. We now move into audience participation. You have a 3-minute limit on anything that's not, which would be the moratorium on tonight's agenda. So save those for when it comes up.
Thank you. Chris Fogley, 306 East 4th Street in Laurel. First, Mayor Wagner, I owe you an apology because I spoke out of turn the other night when you said no public comment and I yelled something out and I shouldn't have when Mr. Closey brought something up. So I apologize for that. And to Mr. Closey, you are correct. I thought that it was on the agenda when Councilmember McKay made her motion to do that. So I would say that there doesn't need to be a public hearing on that, but probably there needs to be notice on the agenda before a vote is taken on that so the public has an opportunity to give their comments like we're doing tonight. So I apologize for that. The state had an opportunity to attend the public hearing tonight. I just want everybody to know that, and nobody from the state came as an opponent to it. And public hearings are important, and so is public participation. The state has said that they've met with Laurel twice. They've only provided public comment during a public comment period twice. They were not on your agenda. And I think that that's important, that they didn't show up tonight to speak to an issue that might be important to them. I don't know. Maybe it's not, but it's not targeted at them, that's for sure. The third piece I had is when we did a records request, we asked for a whole bunch of records, but one thing that we didn't receive was the request for applications that the state sent out to each one of the cities and counties. I know that there was a letter from Laurel that was sent to the state, but we did not receive the RFA of the state requesting an application, and I would like us to be able to receive that, and I will make a public records request for that document. I think it's an important document. And number 4, I guess with the training that happened last week, I know that we have shared our displeasure with people canceling on the town hall meeting. There were 5 council people who said at the council meeting that they were going to attend. And there were 2 staff that confirmed to speak to us about general city matters, about infrastructure, just how their department works. And one of those was Matt Wheeler, and the other one was contracted staff, Forrest Sanderson. And we received notice pretty much all around the same time that people were not going to be attending, and it was right after the council training. There was ex parte communication tonight, but I didn't hear anything from council that they had discussions with Mr. Clark about attendance at the town hall meeting. And that would be a violation of the training meeting that happened if they were talking about specific matters and getting counsel on specific matters without allowing the public to know ahead of time. So I would hope that gets cleared up in who asked staff to not attend, I don't know, but it would have been a great meeting, and it would have been a really nice time for them to get in front of the public and the public to see them and just kind of understand them. So I appreciate the 3 council members that did attend, and I I think they can attest to how cordial the meeting was. So thank you.
Elizabeth Gill, 1200 Cedar Crest Circle. This is for stuff that's not on the agenda. Yeah? Okay. I wanted to let you guys know that our organization, Laurel Cared, did send out a formal request to the relevant legislative oversight committees that oversee DPHHS and the BOI, and we asked them to launch an investigation into their conduct regarding the things that have progressed as far as the mental health corrections facility. And I did forward that to all of you so that you can go through all the documents that we added in there. It's a large packet, and we cited our sources. So the other thing I just wanted to say is this is kind of related to the agenda item, but also not. There is a Senate Bill 382 regarding land use planning. And the city of Laurel is required to have a plan in place by May of this year. And it would be my understanding that most of the studies that we're wanting done anyway would be really required in order for us to put this plan together that's due in May. And I'm wondering if the city has taken any steps towards that, given we're like 2 months out from that deadline. And I guess I'm not sure who to direct that question at, but I also believe that the SB 382 for the affordable housing and growth is slightly contradictory when it comes to us not being able to think outside of the city for growth, because the state is literally asking us to make a plan for where we will grow next. And I believe that a moratorium on annexation while you guys complete these studies and until we have a plan on what we are going to do for 382, I just think it makes sense to wait. And I did send you guys the documentation on SB 382 as well. And I think that was all for my non-agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Again, Shelley White, 512 Wyoming Avenue. And these are just some general statements. I've been in healthcare my entire adult life. Since 1983, I've been a nurse. The last 22 years, I've been in healthcare consulting. I have been on the side of a hospital requesting for people to propose efforts to them. And I've been on the side where we have been requested to provide efforts and a proposal. And in both instances, on the hospital sides and on the consultant side where we've been asked to do something for them, we have always done due diligence. Never would we enter into, either on the hospital side or on the consulting side, submitting any type of information to the requester until we understood the full breadth of what we were being asked, the full breadth of the project, how many resources it would take, how much land it would take, how much infrastructure it would take, whether it be wiring or plumbing or fire drops for emergency services, anything like that. We would never submit any letter, any information back to the requester until we knew all that information. It's what we called in healthcare and what we call in consulting, which is the business end of a request for proposal, doing our due diligence. And I submit that at times, most respectfully, because everybody gets caught up in this, at times these processes are being overlooked. And I suggest that probably these processes should be firmly established and they should be in writing on, if we are asked to do something as a city, these are the steps we will go through. And we will not do anything until all of these steps have been completed. That's just a recommendation. It's helped my consulting companies that I've worked for and hospitals remain in good standing for many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments that are not on tonight? So we can't answer any questions. This is a comment period.
Our city attorney brought up an issue, and it's just, something crossed my mind is that we're talking about the Cherry Hill subdivision, which has nothing to do with this. And that they provided a engineering, study that said Laurel's fine, Laurel's water supply and everything is fine. What does the city staff do? The only thing I heard Kurt say was that the city staff looks at all the applications, all that stuff. Does Laurel have an engineering firm review their application to verify they're good? Or do we rely just solely on our staff to do it? Because maybe that's why we're having problems. So anyways, just something to think about. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments that are not on tonight's agenda?
I'm back. Hi, Laura Kirschman, 939 West 4th Street. Kind of gonna echo off of Shelley. This whole process with the forensic mental health facility and how it kind of took us all by surprise has frustrated me. And it frustrates me for the 8 of you, our city attorney, that you all were not awarded the same respect, the time to do the same process that the other towns were, to do a diligent process, a formal process to submit to the state to actually have interest in this. We are here in this pickle, and it's at no fault of any of you. And so that's why I think we have this other thing going on tonight. But, you know, we have this town in uproar right now, and it's for that reason. People were discredited. You guys have a role here. You have a very important role to support and represent the citizens of Laurel. And we didn't get our say in the matter. We had 2 people acting on behalf of the several thousand citizens of Laurel instead. So I just really hope that we can give you the opportunity to do your jobs. The city attorney can weigh in on things before they progress any further. We need some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
There we go. Technology. Kathy Herr, 501 7th Avenue. I am so excited that an issue like this has brought the community alive. I'm sure everyone here also, how many city council meetings have you had? There's no one sitting out here. And you have business and you conduct it and everybody goes home in half an hour. And this is a great thing that's happening in Laurel. And the fact that elections have consequences and that you represent your constituents and you have heard from constituents. And so I'm just excited about where this is going. Once this issue, if it's ever solved, I have no idea. But there are other issues in Laurel that need input from the community, and I trust that the community keeps showing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No.
And this won't take very long at all. I want to kind of piggyback on what she said, is that this did bring the community out. It brought the community together. And I want to commend not just all of you, but everybody out here too, that through this was done in what I feel has been a very respectful way. And I just really appreciate that the community is able to do this. And all of you are able to do this. We thank you in a very respectful and measured way without a bunch of histrionics. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joey Stack, 415 4th Avenue. I'm kind of new to Laurel, but I also want to say I'm really excited about just kind of the community action that's happening in Laurel. My hometown is in kind of just south of Fargo, North Dakota. Kind of some really similar things that Laurel's going through, Horace went through. Several hydroelectric projects popping up. City didn't, the townsfolk really didn't have a whole lot of say in anything that was happening. And there was, some businesses popped up. Zoning was really weird. They have houses right next to the old lagoons where the wastewater was treated. They called it the Lakeview. Then they put a giant diversion just south of town. Now Horace being south of Fargo, boxes it in. Only way to go is north, but Fargo's there. So my hometown is boxed in, now in the floodplain. There's Lakeview. And no one in the city of Horace really had this kind of response that Laurel has had. And this kind of makes me really excited to be here. And to see that we're all really getting involved as a community to decide what is going to happen in our city.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on. There are no scheduled matters. Oh, there is. I'm sorry. We have an emergency. Oh, yeah. See, when you put them on the back. Okay. We have a emergency ordinance 026-01, an emergency ordinance of the city of Laurel temporarily imposing a moratorium on annexation applications in order to evaluate municipal infrastructure capacity, water system demands, and impacts of recent changes in state law, and the proper future growth plans for the city of Laurel. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve emergency ordinance 026-01.
I'll second that motion.
Councilmember McKay, seconded by Councilmember Edgman. I will do that. I was just reminded that when we go to vote to pass, this has to have 2/3 of the council votes. Councilmember.
Can I call for a roll call?
We will. Yes. Public comment.
Elizabeth Gill, 1200 Cedar Crest Circle. I should have asked more questions about the SB 382. I am curious, I know it's in May. Do you guys know, and are you allowed to tell me like when that deadline is that we have to have that in?
Are you referring to LUPA?
I think that might be, Land Use Planning
Yeah,
Act, yeah.
LUPA, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that that is something that our contracted planner, is that correct, is working on and will be. I might be wrong, but I certainly can look this up and I will correct this, and I'm happy to respond to you, Ms. Gilg, and then you can provide it to anyone. I thought the deadline of that, although trying to keep track of all the bills that were passed in the last couple legislative sessions as they affect municipalities, it was a lot. But my understanding was LUPA compliance had to be done by the close of this year.
It says in the bill that it's May of 2026.
Okay.
And so I was curious, because there has to be like 5 new items that the city adopts, that are, I don't know the exact wording, but so that we can grow positively, you know? And I'm assuming that these measures that you guys adopt I would assume or hope that they would require public input for what we're wanting to do for this affordable housing stuff. And it would be also my thought that we probably shouldn't annex anything, no matter what it is, until we have a plan for what we're going to do for this bill, and what we're going to do for growth in housing, because we need to make sure that that space is there. And we need to decide on where we want it to go before, like, what if there's nothing? What if there's nothing, nowhere to grow, and we can't? Does that make sense? I guess that was just my concern. And I thought that was really interesting, especially for land use items, is that we don't get to choose zoning, right? But we have a zoning wish list, I guess, right? That's what the growth policy is. It's a wish list. And the state is telling us that we need to have that wish list and that it's required that we have this plan of where we will grow next. So I think that's something maybe I'll bring up to the governor, is why would they demand that we plan ahead, but then tell us we can't?
To respond to you, I will confirm the LUPA compliance deadline and if there's any extensions, because I'm not positive about that because of the moving parts with that. Kurt, I don't know if you can confirm. I believe, Forrest is handling that, and he can also comment if he knows deadline issues. And I will.
But I know the answer.
Okay, and I will note, you did bring this up earlier, Ms. Gilg, and I will say that from a legal standpoint, I do agree that a lot of what we're talking about as it relates to specifically the moratorium and then just generalized growth plan issues is actually required to be addressed under LUPA.
Yeah.
So I think there is overlap there that would require action regardless of, these particular issues too.
Yeah.
But Forrest can comment on kind of
Okay.
who's in charge of that.
Awesome, thank you.
No, I'm not. Exclamation point. And I say that quite confidently. The LUPA law passed in 2023. It was amended slightly in 2025. The KLJ contract, which included engineering and planning services, was initiated in 2017, 2018. LUPA wasn't a thing. It was extended in late 22, early 2023. It still wasn't a thing. That contract doesn't speak in any way, shape, manner, or form to LUPA compliance. And the city of Laurel did not issue a task order to KLJ under other services to initiate work on MLUPA. The current contract that I have with the city, obviously where it's short term, speaks nothing to LUPA. Mr. Merkegaard has asked me to help prod things forward, in charge of it, driving the bus, other than get it rolling for him. I have never had a role. I do not currently have a role, and it remains to be seen if the city would want to engage services further, if a role in that process is in my future. No, it's not my baby. The deadline is May 2026. There are federal funds available to the city of Laurel that you can bill back from the state to pay some, if not most of your costs. Those funds are available to December 31st. drive the bus, on the bus, other than getting the bus started so someone else can carry it forward. I have nothing else to say about it. Oh, one other thing, no offense, Michelle, please don't refer to me as the city planner. I'm not.
I should know better about that too, Forrest, based upon my own role, so I apologize.
Chris Fogley, 306 East 4th Street. I just have one quick thing. Intergovernmental agreements, IGAs, are really important during this process. If the city would please look at those with the county, as well as urban growth boundaries and agreements, so that we can have a little bit more control over those boundaries, beyond our boundaries, actually, in terms of zoning and land use. I know that the courts have determined that the county gets jurisdiction in the county and the city gets jurisdiction in the city, but if there's an agreement and they agree on something, then it would give us more of an opportunity to control beyond our boundaries, which is what we need to do so that we don't get the county zoning and doing subdivisions without our approval and landlocking us. And we're pretty landlocked. We got the state landlocking us in the north, and they could landlock us in the west, so.
Dennis, did you have something to say now? Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? How about council discussion? Council Vice President Posey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subject of Cherry Hills keeps being brought up, and also annexation keeps brought up. And to me, that's one issue of growth, that if we pass this moratorium and it goes for 180 days, that goes past the prime sell point that Forrest just brought up during the summer. And that may make the developer awful sorry on wishing to be part of the city of Laurel, and might change his mind and choose to stay in the county. So I have some reservation about some of this, having this moratorium and putting a sour note on some of the developers that might be interested in developing some land and having it annexed into Laurel. Thank you.
Councilmember Banks.
Yeah, I had a kind of a two-part question on this emergency ordinance. I heard the attorney say something about it could not last as long as 90 days. We can stop it once we get everything planned out ahead of time. Okay, and while we're planning on this ordinance, can we also work with Forrest and his alternative methods of how he wanted to go about the plan of fixing things? So like we can kind of do both at the same time.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks. I think that's a great question. Forrest can talk about kind of from what he's suggesting. I will, to answer your two-part question, first, yes. At any point that I think city staff could recommend to council that there is a better plan in place for how to address growth issues, we can come in front of city council and present what that plan looks like. And we certainly can look at repealing this ordinance. So the fact that if it's passed tonight, it is set for the 90 days doesn't mean that that's necessarily, in place for that entire time. That is absolutely an option. And as far as working simultaneously, between a number of different departments within the city in relationship to what Forrest is describing, it's my anticipation that's exactly what would be happening. And in fact, I think it needs to happen very rapidly. I know 90 days can seem like a lot to some people. When we talk about city business, it's a slow cog, when we talk about governmental work. So if staff and anyone working on what things need to look like for the future do not become immediately aggressive in trying to come up with the best plan, that 90 days will pass like that. So I can tell you that at least as to anything that would be related to my office, I make the firm commitment that this will be a significant priority out of my office. Obviously, there's multiple departments that would be involved, but yes, I think that approach is exactly what I'm anticipating. And then Forrest can speak to kind of how he sees things playing out if the moratorium were passed tonight.
Again, assuming the moratorium passes, whether it's tonight or another night, absolutely. The only real difference between what I suggested as an alternative is I know what the document's called. It's called a capital improvements plan. You can call it under whatever you want. All you're really changing is you're setting a rigid schedule of things are going to happen within this time frame. It does limit some things. You can call it a capital improvements plan. I don't care if you call it the city's magical wish list. It doesn't matter so long as you cross the T's, dot the I's, and do it within the rigid timeline and the structures that are required under a moratorium. The end product is going to be the same.
You had a two-part question, or did that get both of? Okay. Council member. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've heard everyone explain, and I apologize because I am very new to this seat. Can you explain what exactly would happen if this were to pass in that 90 days? What exactly is the breakdown? What will be happening?
So from a legal standpoint, if this is passed tonight, it means that the city will not process in this 90-day window, assuming it stays into place this entire 90 days, will not process any new annexation applications. Any applicant who comes in front of the city and suggests that they want to submit a petition for annexation will be provided a copy of the ordinance and say, we are in a moratorium status as it relates to annexations, and we are not processing those applications at this time. So from a legal standpoint, that's what would occur. Now, behind the scenes, what would be occurring is what Forrest was just discussing, what I've been discussing, has been noted on, coming up with, recognizing we're dealing with a window of time here that doesn't solve long-term problems. And what is the solution in that window of time to figure out what things will look like long-term? What engineering firm, if not, and I think I heard Forrest say that his recommendation would be, we probably need two, but what engineering firm is going to be on board? What are we going to do in relationship to a CIP? What do we need to do as far as looking at the existing growth policy? How are these issues met with regard to growth in Laurel from a bigger picture standpoint? Now, all of those things are not going to be solved in any respect within 90 days. So it may be 60 days down the road that staff comes in front of city council and says, there's still a lot of work to be done on what this plan looks like. So our recommendation is X. Maybe it's a year moratorium. Maybe it's longer, maybe it's shorter. Right now, I don't think there's any ability to assess that because there just is not the foundation in place as it relates to a plan. But I think that everyone can be and should be committed to doing that over the course of the next 30 to 60 days. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just have a quick follow-up. In the moratorium, it talks about infrastructure as far as water. It talks about emergency services. I heard Forrest speak on public works and the planning department handling that. Is there anybody outside of that? Who's going to be collecting all of that information and bringing that back?
So I think that I probably want to defer to the mayor and our CAO on who would kind of be, if you want to call it, in charge of leading the overall task. Because I don't think I would have authority to speak on that.
Public Works will do the bulk of the work, and they will refer to Public Works Committee. Public Works Committee will review and then pass it on to myself to put on agenda for the council to look at it. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, may I follow up? Currently, we have an RFP for engineering, our request for proposals. That deadline ends April 3rd, I believe, at 3 p.m. Where firms are going to be, I think Forrest brought that up, that we are seeking firms April 3rd. We're trying to get a committee of some of maybe the planning board, or sorry, the Public Works members to assess that and review the applicants. I believe Forrest said that there's a number of interested firms. I know they're coming in and meet with the Public Works Director. They're not meeting with anyone else, but they're meeting with the Public Works Director and, you know, sizing up what the needs are of the city and Public Works. So that closes on April 3rd at 3 o'clock. It's probably going to be a few weeks after that, following up how to review it, score it, and then that selection would be then forwarded to the city council. Probably May before it gets to the city council. Just by the timing of having the meetings, interviews. So that's typically what happens is the applications come in or the proposals, and then you close them. That it's ending on a Friday. So the following week, getting a committee together to review the proposals the following week. Of course, you've got council workshop trying to figure out the schedule and getting that recommendation to city council for selection. Last time we went through this was 2017. And then that contract was extended for another 3 years, I believe. So it's been a while since the committee had to come together, select an engineering firm. I don't think a lot of the issues are going to be solved in the 90 days. It's just when we're just sitting here, just getting an engineering firm. There's always a chance we could hire the existing engineering firm, but we are required to go out for engineering. We just can't keep the same engineer forever. We have to reevaluate the engineering firms that we've selected. So since I've been here, we've had 3 in 22 years, 3 different engineering firms. And so we don't know what that'll hold. We can't predict what the committee will come out of the recommendation on the firm that will be going forward. So I'm not sure a lot of that work is going to be done until we get task orders put together. And then, like I said, the CIP that we did before was almost two years in the making from the time it was task order was done, and then by the time it was completed, trying to get all the staff together. That CIP included the police chief, the fire chief, every department in the city to come up with that. So it was time consuming to put all that needs and the wants into that CIP. So it took many years to do. And since we have an expired contract in December and we're just going towards it, we did have a short-term engineering to review subdivisions. And that went before the council to approve that. I believe that ends April 30th. And then the planning was with Forrest until April 30th as well. We have to look for RFP, and I've asked Forrest Sanderson to help with an RFP for planning. I've talked to the mayor about it, and we need to go an RFP for planning to help with planning services going forward as well. Hopefully that's going out shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In follow-up to what Kurt mentioned, I do want to note something that I think is of significance as it relates to this issue in front of City Council. And I would specifically point your attention to the legislative findings that are proposed in subsection 14 and 16 in this ordinance. There's a lot of discussion going on right now about public works and infrastructure issues, which is rightfully so. You know, when we talk about expansion of any municipality and annexation, we're talking about legitimate hard infrastructure, pulling out water and sewer lines, ability for our water and sewer services to provide adequate services to any developed area. Those, when we talk about infrastructure demands, are just one component of the puzzle involved here. A significant infrastructure demand upon any municipality that is annexing relates specifically to emergency services. We have a volunteer fire department with all due respect, because it is not their fault, but with all due respect to our ambulance, EMS, and police department, we have significantly understaffed and limited staffing in those departments and limited resources. And it is my opinion, specifically as it relates to emergency services, that any growth has to evaluate the demand upon those emergency services. We cannot assume that those three departments can step outside of existing city boundaries with significant growth and be able to adequately service city residents. And when we annex properties, we cannot make excuses about whether we can service those properties. And so any existing growth moving forward has to have, the same way as we talk about the Public Works Department, a true analysis as it relates to the demands upon those three departments. So I believe that's also a significant component as it relates to the big piece of this puzzle, that when we talk about a plan moving forward, has to involve the department heads and leadership in those three departments as well.
Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. So I think this segues from her comment. So Mary, you said that, the conversations about infrastructure would fall to Public Works and the Public Works Committee. Then also, would that be the same suggestion then for emergency services, that the Emergency Services Committee would flow that through?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as chair for both of those committees, that makes me very nervous. That's a really big ask. And while I have huge respect for Matt Wheeler and Chief Anglin, Chief Hopper, and Chief Gerchek, our Public Works and Emergency Services committees are volunteer committees. And I think at this point, with my few years in, I know just enough to be dangerous. And this kind of responsibility to be the flow through for that information is heavy and worrisome. I would think that possibly there should be an outside committee, or at least a figurehead keeping track of all of this, because my concern is, what's our template? What are our measures? And ultimately, like, who's in charge? I don't think it can be this committee, that committee, made up of all of these people. You need a leader. So I think we need that. And Forrest, I'm wondering what your role might be in this evaluation of those services. Was that a gentle enough segue?
No, it's an excellent question. I understand the concern, Councilperson McKay. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I cannot commit to the ask. As Kurt pointed out, the short-term contract that I have with the city expires on April the 30th. You're going out for an RFP. You might decide you like somebody a whole hell of a lot better and hire them. Ask them. I would hope that if I respond to the RFP, that I would be considered for the job, but there's a lot of competition for the type of service that I provide. Perhaps there is someone out there better. That's what the procurement process is all about. To commit, no, I can't and I won't, because it's beyond our term. If I were to participate following that, I would lose my liability protection through my insurance carrier. I would be doing that all at risk. I love y'all, but not to the point where I'd give up everything that I have or would ever hope to have if I made a mistake. A suggestion maybe, as I understand, you're looking at two committees, EMS and Public Works. Are all of the members of those two committees relatively new on the council, less than, I would say, 4 years experience?
Yeah, less than 4. Myself, I'm only at 3 years. And then I think Irv's our senior ranking member on both of our committees, but other than that, it's us less thans.
And 3 members on the committee, or 4?
Let's see. So emergency services consists of Councilmember Edgmond, Wilkie, myself, and Councilmember Naylor. And then we are full with community members of Shane Lacasse, Bruce McGee, Jamie Swecker, and then of course the 3 chiefs. Public Works consists of Wilkie, Banks, myself, and Naylor, Mr. Herr, and Sean Mullaney. And we have 2 vacancies on Public Works right now. And then, of course, Matt Wheeler.
That's not a bad team to play to, in my opinion. It's, the matter's going to come before the full council. I wouldn't be disturbed by it, councilperson. You can handle it. I promise, you can handle it.
I feel like you.
Not throwing you under the bus neither.
Just a little bit.
I was hoping that you would tell me that your committees were 3 elected officials, and I would have summarily thrown the council president and vice president under the bus to join you on, but that would create a quorum.
Right.
That causes problems. I don't disagree that those are the committees that see the lion's share of the burden of new development. I trust you. I suspect your peers do. And the simple fact of the matter is, as a whole, the city council, you'll all get to play. You'll do fine. I promise.
I feel like you just patted me on the head.
Would you like me to?
Not really.
Do you have anything else, Councilmember McKay?
Yes, but I'm going to chew on it for a minute while Forrest continues to talk.
Council President Canopy.
Thank you. What I want to do is I'm just going to hand him a committee list, which I've passed to everyone physically possible here on the committees, who is at emails, telephone numbers, so that you're aware of what is up current.
Cool. I had one in the past, but with the new elections and the reassignments, I didn't have that. Thank you, Council President.
You bet.
Councilmember McKay.
Okay, thank you. With a lot of these questions, Forrest, don't pack up and leave just yet. That is on this list. I've sat through a few annexations in my time, and I feel like a lot of the questions that are on our annexation application and that the applicants, the hoops that they have to jump through, maybe address some of these things already, because we already ask Public Works, what's our water concerns? We already ask emergency services, and our planning committee has always come back with, I feel like, pretty good black and white responses to those specific questions. So I guess what would be the difference between what the annexation application asks for and what, this list? I'm specifically looking at that number 6 in our packet about, let's see, the certified water capacity, storage impact, fire flow, emergency response times, infrastructure demands. Doesn't our annexation application already kind of address those questions?
Directly, the annexation form, no. And the reason for that, councilperson, is because we don't just go out and annex vacant property. When people come to the city of Laurel under RO 822, we expect them to have a development plan, typically a subdivision, or they're going to put the use to some beneficial use on that property. And through that are tertiary regulations, subdivision and zoning step in. Those regulatory processes require very detailed information submitted by licensed professionals that supplements the information in RO 822. Because we have those additional regulations and we don't entertain the annexation of vacant land under current policies, there's probably not a tremendous need for additional information on the annexation form itself. I had an idea and it went to Glendive. I apologize. I'll pick it up there in a couple of weeks when I go back. But in terms of modifications to RO 822 and the way we address the embracing of property, through annexation. I always encourage the council to take a look at annexation as a business decision. The landowner has already taken a look at their whole card and they say, hey, yeah, I need something from the city of Laurel really, really, really bad. Usually it affects the two committees that you work with. Emergency services, they need police, they need fire, they need EMS. Without a doubt, in order to get the types of densities that we require at our 7,500, they need public water, public sewer, public streets, all of those things. The tools that we have address all of those things. The decision to annex, the question we ask, is it good for the city? They're telling us what they're going to do there. Is the investment we're going to make in the extension of our capital infrastructure and our limited resources, police, fire, ambulance, are we going to get a return for that in the form of taxes? If that answer is yes, it's a good choice. If the answer is no, probably not a good decision. There are certain instances, yes, where you would make a business decision where you actually lose money because there's something else out there that you need, want, or desire. So again, annexation, business decision. Your other rules and regulations, cross the T's, dot the I's, they mandate through the process that the department heads or their representatives come to pre-application meetings. They express their concerns. So we as staff or in a support role such as myself to your staff, get those questions addressed through the formal application. Yes, their engineers are going to turn in documents that they're going to say, we've done a study, we've done analysis, we believe we have enough of X, Y, and Z. If it's an engineering document, the city engineer double checks that for you. They do the QC and in the past, and I'm not talking just to the last 8 years with KLJ, your engineers previously have questioned, they have challenged, and in some instances required the developer's engineer to go back and start over. There was a very recent subdivision and annexation that was coming through Goldberg Sporting Estates. The developer's engineer thought it was the neatest thing since sliced bread. Your engineer told them, no, not so much. The city of Laurel doesn't do this. End of discussion. The project was denied. The annexation never occurred along with the initial zoning. It works. Trust me. I've seen it work both ways. Cherry Hill Fourth, they crossed the T's, they dotted their I's. Your engineer reviewed it and concurred. They did make some tweaks, but it can fall apart. It works for you. Does that answer the question? In a long, roundabout, long-winded, forests here kind of way?
Yes, no, I need to chew for a minute. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Banks?
Thank you. So right now, we haven't seen or even heard when the state is planning on requesting an annexation. Is that correct? And we have no idea how soon or how long it's going to take before they come to us.
To the best of my knowledge and belief, we've received nothing.
So,
and I haven't heard any rumbles to the second portion of your question, if or when they may submit something to the city. It is conceivable that they may never ask the city of Laurel for anything. That possibility, however remote, is out there.
that's what I was going to ask. If it does come to annexation and we deny it, or if they never even ask for it, what are their options? Are they still allowed to just build, and whether we want them to or not?
If they want to build it, they're going to build it. There ain't nothing you can do or the county of Yellowstone can do to stop it. If they want to build it, they're gonna. Under current law and the current district court decisions, that is a reality. What they're going to do for the various services, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't think, well, I won't speak for the state, but I don't think anybody here locally knows for sure.
So there is a possibility though, that even without this ordinance, they can just start building, or even with the ordinance, they can start building without our input. And then the other question to that is, if we don't pass the ordinance and just, take our time at thinking about what the city needs for their growth plan instead of rushing through it in 90 days, I don't see how that's going to change one way or the other, whether we do it in 90 days or take a little longer and, take our time.
To the point, I covered this earlier in my presentation, the state doesn't need, want, or desire your approval. They are the sovereign. They care. Don't take that wrong. They care. They are us. We are them. We are all Montanans. But they don't need our permission. They have to come to a public hearing. That's the end of it under current state law. I would hope they do more, but that's the minimum they must do. Is this ordinance, could this ordinance have an adverse effect on the state? Possibly, if they were to propose to annex in the next 90 days, we couldn't consider it, or until it was lifted by the council. We couldn't consider it until we had kept the commitments that are contained in the ordinance, that we will do X, Y, and Z within a reasonable amount of time, hence the rigid structure that the citizenry is asking for.
Councilmember McKay?
Thank you. I am assuming, and we know that that's dangerous, but I understand that our emergency service department could, come up with some of these numbers. But some of these numbers would require engineering. And I guess to speak to, I think it was Council President Canopy's point of cost with that. I guess I'm curious how cost prohibitive, while maybe well-intended, a moratorium like this would be, thinking about what the costs would be and whether or not it really has the impact that the community is hoping or assuming.
I think I understand, Councilperson McKay. The simple fact of the matter is, you're going to bear the cost regardless of the approach that you choose, whether you choose the rigid approach requested by your constituency or the approach that I suggested. The costs are going to be almost identical. The only thing that changes is under the rigid structure, you will finish in 90 days. Under the other approach, you could have taken as long as you needed to where you became comfortable with that. I understand the community's not a fan of that idea. I accept and I respect that, but you did need to have the opportunity to consider it. Frankly, at this point, yeah, money's a concern. It shouldn't be your defining issue. You have problems. They're big problems. What we need to sort out now is which process are you going to select to move forward to get at the heart of the issue, which is solve problems, because it's also going to cost money. I wouldn't fixate on the dollars and cents. In terms of the grand scheme of what you would hope to accomplish, it's chump change, to be brutally honest.
Any other council questions? Councilmember McKay?
Thank you. Just one more as I think about 90 days and I think about we don't have the engineer on board yet. That's going to take time, so much time. If we're taking this under and in 60 days, we're not close. And I'm more reiterating, I think what maybe you've already said, Attorney Brockman, that if we're already 60 days in and we can see we're not gonna knock this out in the next 30, we can request the extension so that we're not in violation of our ordinance. Did I understand that correctly?
Thank you, Councilmember McKay. Yes, or within that period of time, I believe that staff would be coming to council with a recommendation about a long-term, non-emergency ordinance that puts a moratorium in place. What that timing will be, those discussions have not happened yet. As I said, sometimes we see from a legal standpoint, that's a year. Like I think we discussed, the Missoula moratorium that's in place right now for East Missoula is 5, it might be 10. So here again, I could be wrong. With this proposition in front of council on an emergency basis, it is not precluding a moratorium in place that will come in front of council in the next 90 days that is non-emergency in nature. And there is no time limit for that. Emergency ordinances have a specific time limit to prevent them from being enacted by council without any endpoint in sight. But I anticipate, so I think I want to kind of correct things a little bit here. What I'm hearing some of the discussion to be is that there's some idea that all of this work has to be done in the next 90 days. That's not accurate. A plan for what things are going to look like moving forward, whether or not a longer term moratorium is appropriate, we will come up with, sorry, bad verbiage, within that window of time. And that will be before the 90-day conclusion, because if the recommendation to council is to consider, say, a year moratorium on annexation while the city is working through these issues, that's going to require an ordinance to be done on a non-emergency basis, which will require significant public notice, multiple readings of that ordinance. So that's not going to be pushed to day 75. I mean, we're realistically talking maybe 45 days out as far as a recommendation of, do we need to look at something more permanent in nature? And when I say permanent, I don't mean into perpetuity. I mean a year, couple of years, et cetera, while this work is being done. So I think I just want to kind of correct that a little bit. The idea that we're going to solve these problems in 90 days absolutely is not going to happen. The idea we can come up with a plan for how to begin to solve these problems can absolutely happen, to present that to council within that time period. Does that make sense? Because I think there might be a little bit of confusion mixed up in that. Like nobody, I think, and as Forrest has discussed, but nobody should be rushing to conclude this is what needs to happen in relationship to growth in Laurel when we talk about that from a bigger picture item. But a significant focus upon putting a plan in place, in my experience, I want to be a little careful in how I say this because this is not necessarily a legal recommendation per se. Emergency ordinances, in my experience, prompt action because they have deadlines. They have consequences if you don't meet those deadlines. And there is advantage to that because it promotes action. But no, solving the issues, and I think maybe to comment on what Councilmember Banks was mentioning, that's what I'm trying to kind of clarify. We're not going to have in 90 days from now, oh, here's what growth in Laurel is going to look like the next decade. But certainly a scheduling of what a plan will look like and an idea of, do we need to really just halt annexation proposals for a larger window of time can be presented to council within that time period.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You mentioned that it puts a plan in place or tells you to put a plan in place with ramifications if you don't accomplish that. What are those ramifications then?
Well, in relationship to if the plan is an ordinance, a moratorium ordinance that lasts for, say, a year, 2 years maybe, there will be contained within that ordinance specific steps that have to be met within that window of time. that are legally required of the city then. You know, this emergency ordinance doesn't specify those things out right now because it's just to put into place the ability for the city to step back and say, we're not going to process new applications right now until we can figure out even what this process should really look like in relationship to growth for the city as a whole. But what I anticipate would be proposed to council within that time period either would be, you know, some of the things that might be a little bit softer approach that Forrest is discussing, and those are going to require, I think, internal discussions amongst staff. And, you know, we don't always agree on those approaches. I mean, when we come to city council with a recommendation, the hope is that we've all come to a conclusion that we can recommend. But behind the scenes, you know, there's often very significant discussions where people have disagreements about the approaches because we all come to these things with different angles. My intention would be that there would be a clear discussion on, do we want to look at a long-term moratorium? And if not, because of what it might do as far as hindering growth, what do we want to do to put a plan in place as far as deadlines on issues like revising the growth policy, looking at amendment of the capital, the CIP, you know, all of those types of things that are involved. Does that make sense? No, or, okay.
Councilmember Edmund.
Thank you, Mayor. So make sure that I got this in my brain the way I think I have it in my brain. If we're to do a 90-day ordinance, the clock starts ticking and the clock can expire. Whereas if we go the idea with a long-term ordinance kind of thing, I don't know how that would be described. We can run it on our schedule. Or am I off?
I think what you're saying is accurate, but I think I kind of want to correct the framework here because I think what I'm hearing is that people think these two concepts are exclusive, and they're not. They are intended to run in conjunction with each other. You put an emergency ordinance in place in order to give the time to consider what types of long-term ordinances you need. Prior to this being presented to council, there had not been any, that I'm aware of, any internal real city staff discussion about any issue related to a moratorium. It certainly had never crossed my desk before, which I'd assume it would because there's legal ramifications to it. So when this idea came up and we started having internal discussions about the viability of it, and I had to define if it was even legally viable, and then we had discussions about, you know, what the consequences would be. Those discussions have not been able to happen in a substantive manner that really even define what a long-term moratorium would look like. So sitting here today, I don't think that myself, our executive branch, Forrest could even remotely make any recommendation about length of time of an actual moratorium ordinance. The commitment I think we can make is that if this is passed, and frankly, whether it's passed or not, I think we can make this commitment, but this would give some breathing room to make this commitment. The commitment we can make is that we will have a recommendation to you within the next probably 60 days to make that decision. Ultimately, when all of us consult as, you know, various contracted personnel and then department heads and the executive branch, the decision might be that's not, you know, a moratorium for a year or 2 years. I'm just throwing out timeframes here. Is not a wise approach for some of the reasons that, you know, Forrest, I think, started to kind of articulate, but even that discussion wasn't, you know, it's not near as in depth right now because we're just talking about a very short emergency basis. But the idea would be that a real solution of whether or not a moratorium for a longer time period is a viable option, or if not, what is the plan so that can be presented to city council will happen. I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't, you know, the mayor sets the agenda and there's multiple people that weigh in on all of these things. But as it relates to the legal issues, I absolutely am committed to giving a recommendation to city council on that particular issue. But I could not, from a timing standpoint, first of all, if a moratorium was approached on a non-emergency basis, it required much more time. We'd be several weeks out more. But more significantly, the internal analysis has not been conducted enough to make a real recommendation on that. So that's where time is needed. Did that answer your question? So it's a concurrent time frame. These two issues are not exclusive of each other.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other council? Okay, we will move to the roll call vote. Once again, 2/3 needed to pass the ordinance. Councilmember Naylor,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkie,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember McKay,
Yes.
Councilmember Closey,
No.
Councilmember Wheeler,
Nay?
Councilmember Edgman,
Yay.
Councilmember Canopy.
No.
The ordinance did not pass. Moving on to, we have no items removed from the consent agenda. We have any community announcements with a 1-minute limit? Any council discussion about boards or groups or something that you're on? Councilmember McKay.
Well, it's not really about boards or groups.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. I wanted to just ask, the two times that the state has had a comment or has talked to us has been through public comment. And I think I expressed to Kurt that I personally found that to be inappropriate and not the way that that should be happening. And so I would like to request that if they were to reach out to ask for that again, that we deny that and sort of take charge and put them on the agenda, and that be the only way that they speak to us in our community. I respectfully request that.
Okay. Any other council discussion? Have no mayor updates? Any unscheduled matters?
I'd just like to, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Just to make the community aware and the council members aware, Northwest Energy did today hit a abandoned fire hydrant leg. That was a rather large water event for the city. I've never seen water spraying into the power poles before. I don't know if anyone's seen the videos of it. It was, we went in and we tried to shut down it as best we could, getting all the valves shut off. The crew, I just want to acknowledge to the council that we have a great crew that was out there repairing that. They skipped their lunch, they worked right through it, and they got it done, and we got it done right before this meeting started. So I just came from there. We were getting the street sweep swept up. And just to let you know, it wasn't on our maps. The current maps that we are using, it did not identify that there was a fire hydrant that was cut off with a blowtorch and buried in the boulevard in the corner. And then when Northwest Energy went to replace a power pole today, they hit that line and had a large water event through that neighborhood. So I do ask for, and I'm glad that there was a lot of patience in the neighborhood, especially the east side going away from that break. We had to shut down a lot of blocks trying to get the water to shut down, and we finally were able to get it completely killed. We did abandon that fire hydrant. It wasn't there. It had been moved, we believe, in 1979. And the power pole that is currently there being held by a truck was right beside the old fire hydrant. So it was cut off and buried, and it was abandoned in place, and then it was abandoned in that, and then it was moved over about 10, 15 feet, and there was another fire hydrant. That fire hydrant says 1979 on it. So I just want to give a huge shout out to the Public Works employees that took care of that today. Northwest Energy had patience with us. Everybody, the residents that had patience with us trying to get that fixed. It is repaired. We're going to look at repairing the street. It is filled. The barricades are down, and the water system is back in service. So.
Any other unscheduled matters? Move for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
A motion made by Councilmember McKay, seconded by Councilmember Wilkie. We are adjourned. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.
Vote no.